Private sector lending in Kenya grew by 12.5% last year, compared to about 8.5% the previous year in Kenya, and that is because of deliberate effort by banks to actually lend more to the private sector as opposed to government. Now, to put this in context, there's always been that rope pulling between the private sector and the public sector on who should be prioritized by the commercial sectors when it comes to lending. Because normally banks tend to have a big appetite of lending to public entities or government because of the low risk normally associated with such products. Now, we'll be putting that in more context, especially in our situation in Uganda, in our subsequent shows. It's Money and Markets. I am Charles Board, your host. Welcome. Still talking about lending or borrowing, there's been a bit of concern lately in Uganda about Uganda's debt to GDP ratio. Of course, the debt is growing and threatening to actually breach the IMF and World Bank recommended threshold. Now, the main concern is that a huge debt burden seems to take away resources from the critical sectors of the economy, such as education and health. However, we're putting this in context by picking the mind of one of the sector players or the main economic players in this country to find out what they think of Uganda's debt situation.
On side of the traders, we organized several proposals because we thought that if our comrades can honor them, they can save the business community. Because we are working hand in hand with some government agencies to see how do we change the perception of traders by formalization. So when they formalize, it facilitates to widen the tax base. So with this, we thought that if the government can revisit some of its policies and lower some taxes, they are so high. Just give an example, when the Ministry of Finance was presenting its proposals, it suggests that they're not going to add more new taxes, which is a good move. But again, you find that at times they increase the values when they're assessing our goods by URA. So at times the values, the taxes, they haven't added more taxes, but when you increase the values, they have an automatic effect on the tax, on the rate of the tax, which we are supposed to pay. So we are engaging URA to see that even the values are not tampered with. Secondly, we think that even the ministry should consider like scrapping taxes on mobile phones, because now we are promoting e-market, e-business. Why should mobile phones be taxed? Let them be added on the category of computer to promote IT in Uganda, because nowadays business is done on mobile phone and business is taxed. By the way, it will ease access of smartphones to Ugandans. Secondly, they will be available at a very affordable rate. So one of the proposals was that. And then also we are suggesting that can the ministry also consider the issue of rent taxes. You find that when the rent taxes are so high, it means that our traders who rent these shops, they are going to be costly. But when the shops are fair, the prices for the rent are fair, it can facilitate our business recovery. The fact is, we are badly hit by the restrictions of COVID-19. So we think that if the government can have special consideration for that, it can save the business community. But the moment is that when our pockets are dry, are broke, then even the purchasing power is affected. So even our investors, they don't benefit. So our proposal is, can we have a fair tax regime whereby even our traders won't think about smuggling? Because if the taxes are affordable, why should I smuggle? Then I'll comply and more numbers of Ugandans will be paying taxes. But you cannot believe that now people even fear to formalize, to register their businesses. We robbed for a recovery fund, where a trader tells you, my friend Chair, if I register my business, here is going to be on my door knocking. The views are some of them which I've presented, but we think that we are working hand in hand because consultation, the budget process is ongoing. We shall have to see that we argue our way out because even we think now like for the textile. Let me give an example, the textile sector. Why should the Ugandan pay high taxes for textile and garments? The fact is that our local production cannot meet our demand or the market demand. So we need to make sure that it fully is revisited. And Ugandans can still import to substitute with the low production. But nowadays when you go downtown, Abugabo, a shirt which you could access even at 20,000, now it's 40. Because the taxes, the values are high. Paying 35 is too much. And then even we appeal to the ministry not to rethink at all reintroducing the dollar per kilo system. Because before they used to charge that, when we were buying these shirts, we don't buy them basing on how heavy or on weight. You buy per piece. That this is a shirt, I'm purchasing it at 5,000 or 10,000. So before they had introduced the tax, why they had to weigh the weight of a shirt. And then they tag $1 per kilo, $3 per kilo. So it was so much that even it was going to kick our comrades out of business. For Uganda's growing debt, for us also we are worried. Because nowadays, our members were complaining that every time URA has instituted an audit, URA now, the enforcement even wants to come in the shops to see that have you really paid for taxes. So it's like the government is looking for money to clear its debt. And also us, we are bad off. So we think that can the government revisit fully its policies to reduce on the operation costs? Administrative costs are so huge. We have so many districts, we have many RDCs, we have many MPs, and by the way, without the way they are serving Ugandans. So if the government can revisit its administrative structure, merge these duplicated agencies, reduce on the number of MPs, reduce on the number of RDCs, the districts, the government can move on. The government should invest in the private sector. The government is investing heavily in promoting Ugandan with the foreign investors and then handling all the economy to foreigners. But we need to see how do we invest in our local investors. Just imagine all the banks almost are foreign owned. Now most of the industries, yes, the industries are good, but when you revisit and find out, when you make research, how many industries are being owned by Ugandans, they are very few. So it's not like that we don't want, but there should be a very highly researched strategy of enabling Ugandans into local manufacturing, into cottage industry, process by process. You can develop a cottage industry into a bigger industry. So with this, the government should allocate enough funds in the Uganda Development Bank. And even it has to revisit unfair requirements. There are so many requirements to access that fund. And even they should strengthen their collaboration with commercial banks to see that even commercial banks can facilitate long-term investments. And even they lower the interest rate